These are the promises which the Narendra Modi government made when it came to power in 2014.
में कोई है भाई जिसको दिल्ली सरकार ने नौकरी दी हो? ये काला धन वापस आना चाहिए। जिस दिन भारतीय जनता पार्टी को मौका मिलेगा, एक एक पाई हिंदुस्तान की वापस लाई जाएगी और हिंदुस्तान के गरीबों के लिए काम लाई जाएगी। फिर से विश्व गुरु बनाना है। ये जवान और किसान कांग्रेस के शासन में सुरक्षित है क्या?
For the first time in history, the 42-year-old Bharatiya Janata Party came to power on its own with Narendra Modi's face. The markets were cheering Modi's win. The Sensex opened with a surge of 800 points in 2014. After 7 years of Modi's regime, things have completely flipped. Dollar has jumped from 62 to 74 against the Indian rupee. Petrol crossed the triple-digit mark and the unemployment rate kept soaring. A recent report by CMIE states India's unemployment rate hit a 4-month high in December 2021. Data from Center for Monitoring Indian Economy (CMIE) showed on Monday, 3rd January 2022. The unemployment rate rose to 7.9% in December 2021 from 7% in November 2021, its highest since 8.3% in August 2021. Economic activity and consumer sentiment have been hit after a rise in the cases of Omicron virus and social distancing restriction in many states. Joining me to speak about the issue is Professor Arun Kumar.
So, the first thing is that unemployment data in India is not very, very accurate. The reason is that when somebody loses work, they can't say we will not work and die because we don't have social security. So unlike in the West where you have social security and a lot of government support, you can say, okay, I'm not going to work till I find a suitable job. So like in the USA now, millions of people have left their jobs because they don't find that suitable job. So there's a shortage of labor there. But in India, because of lack of social security, the people are not unemployed. That's why our unemployment figures remain low. But we have a lot of underemployment. So, you may have a rickshawala who stands at the rickshaw stand for 14 hours and gets 2 hours of work or 3 hours of work. Or there's a headload worker at the market. He may stand for, 10, 12 hours and get 2 hours of work or 3 hours of work. So there's a lot of underemployment. And then there's disguised unemployment in rural areas because of the demonetization and then the GST and then the pandemic. A lot of unorganized sector workers, they lost employment and they went back to the rural areas. Now in the rural areas, therefore, they will do some work in their field or somebody's field, some marginal work. So there's a lot of disguised unemployment in the rural areas. So therefore, the unemployment figures in India do not reflect the correct picture, especially of the unorganized sector. So, when we say that, the unemployment has risen from 7% to 8% or from 6% to 7%, in urban areas and rural areas, they are only reflecting basically what is happening, in terms of, certain category of workers, like in the organized sector, where you may lose employment or, maybe some people who are working in the organized sector, but they're contract workers, where they're not part of the organized workforce, but they're contract workers. So, it will reflect that. But I think the underlying feature is much worse because there are a lot of contact services that could not fully recover. And we also know that, consumer confidence has not recovered back to the pre-pandemic level. The RBI survey of the consumer confidence, about 3 months back was showing that was at half the level that was there in January 2020 before the pandemic. And similarly, capacity utilization in industry, which only reflects the organized sector, had not recovered fully. So all these things were there. And then, in the last few months, what has happened is that, okay, there was a surge because of the festival in October and early part of November. And that surge has now petered out because of the fact that, people are in trouble, unorganized sector unemployment is there. And the organized sector also, a lot of people lost income. So while at the festival time, they may have spent more and there may have been more activity. But after that, the activity would tend to decrease because people have lost income. And also because of the health expenditure, many even middle class families lost all their savings. So they're not in a position to, continue their expenditure as they would like to do. And that's why there would be unemployment that would increase of contract workers, of unorganized sector workers, of the organized sector workers, and so on.
Professor, do you think the rise of Omicron cases will worsen the situation?
Yes, definitely, because Omicron is spreading very rapidly. We have seen in the USA, in Britain, etc. So it's a milder version, not as virulent as say the Delta variant. But the point is that when it spreads to large number of people, and especially to unvaccinated people or those who had only one shot, and even those who had two shots are getting it. But those who had two shots have been infected earlier, they're not getting a very severe case. But those who are unvaccinated or have had only one shot, or like the children who are getting one shot now, they'll be, vulnerable for the next 15 days till the shot begins to take effect. So all these people can fall sick, and they can be, more severe than the milder variety of the disease that could have taken place if there was much more vaccination that was done. So in a sense, Omicron is going to affect the health system. And as people are saying that the frontline workers and the doctors, they are going to be affected, the nurses are going to be affected. So hospitals will begin to break down much earlier than, in the earlier variety of the disease. Because, hospitals is not just a question of bed. You can create beds, but if you don't have doctors and nurses to take care of patients, then it signifies a breakdown of the health system. So the worry is that the health system could break down, and therefore, in spite of it being a milder version, the situation may turn grave. So we have to be very careful, and we have to protect our population from Omicron as well as possible, and ramp up the health system and the precautions that need to be taken by the general public. Because up till about a few days back, everybody thought it's mild and it's not going to affect us, etc. Is in the US now there are 6 lakh cases. In our country only 7,000 cases were there. So people are taking it easy. Now that has to change. The consciousness of the public that it is going to be mild and therefore we don't need to worry. That consciousness needs to change, and government's actions have to reflect that. These election rallies that are going on, the super spreader events that we saw before the second wave, which spread the virus very rapidly, that again has to be checked. So I think if need be, elections could be shifted, because this Omicron goes up rapidly and comes down rapidly. So if the election rallies and the election announcements could be shifted even by a month, one doesn't have to shift it indefinitely, but even a month shift could be a useful thing to tackle the disease. Otherwise, by January end, early February, the number of cases could be very high, and that could overwhelm our hospital systems.
So, Professor, my last question is, how do you see this pattern in the context of other economies?
Okay, so, the other South Asian economies face similar problems to our problem. That is that, the vaccination being not full, that, large number of people are unprotected, and that Omicron will affect everybody. That is a given. So I think we are all going to be in a very similar situation. And economically, it will mean, a hit to the economy, in all the South Asian economies, some more, some less. I think Bangladesh managed it better earlier than we managed it. But, they will also be hit. Of course, poverty makes it difficult to tackle the thing. Also, lack of education and scientific temper also makes it worse. And especially in some of the countries where they don't believe in vaccination, etc. Some people in India also don't believe in vaccination. Some people think it's a conspiracy of the multinationals and the drug companies because of which this virus and the vaccination is taking place. So there are all kinds of thoughts about it. But what is clear is that, from Britain and the US, that those who are getting severe disease, they are the ones who did not take vaccination. So in a sense, we have to depend. And unfortunately, in India, we did not proceed with vaccination as rapidly as we should have. In January 2021, when we started the vaccination, we started by 1.5 crore in a month and a half. Now, at that rate, it would take 23 years to vaccinate everybody. So we needed to start with at least 10 crore vaccination a month in January, so that by the end of the year, we could have vaccinated everybody. And we didn't do that. And that's why we are in a situation where only a fraction of the population has been fully vaccinated, and large number of people remain unvaccinated. So, this situation is the similar, whether it be Nepal or Pakistan or Bangladesh and so on. So all the South Asian countries have to be careful, because it's not only going to hit the people, but also the economy, because the economic activity will slow down everywhere. What people thought was a good recovery, that recovery is not going to be good. Again, the unorganized sector will be hit very hard, because they're the ones who are going to be affected the most by this. So in a sense, we have to be very careful. So as I've been saying, let's hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.